Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. How are things? I want to beg your forgiveness. I don't know why, I'm just like, ugh, this entire morning. I've been struggling to get anything done. And I actually have had work to get done this morning. This is like this, you ever wake up and you're just like, ugh, fog? Which is actually funny because it's very foggy outside in real life too. So I've got fog outside, I got fog inside. I was thinking about getting like one of those power-ups, you know, from Skyward Sword. You get the vacuum air blowing thing. Just get rid of it all, but not really going on. We don't actually have a lot of really big news to talk about today, which is great, because that means I don't have to talk about net neutrality, which is always a nice thing. Reminder, net neutrality still hasn't been decided in the first tier. Good news? Let's see. Yeah, I think one of the things I want to talk about today is going to be good news. While we're here in the not quite news segment, I do want to mention... Oh, I should write that down. There we go. I do want to mention, for anybody who actually gives a damn, DayZ is apparently going to go out of early access soon. Holy crap. I didn't realize DayZ was still qualified as early access. How's the audio volume, by the way? Just out of curiosity, because I have a story for you. Some of you may or may not remember that yesterday I had to update iTunes in order to fix my sister's phone. Surprise, surprise, iTunes stopped working properly after that update, in several ways, but the one that really matters for me is this thing you see in front of you right here. The tool that grabs this from iTunes, it's actually a really complicated, ridiculous problem, but basically iTunes added something into iTunes itself that prevented third-party programs from playing information from iTunes. It's not a simple solution, and in fact, it's so bad that there might not be a solution, period. Ever. So, I uninstalled iTunes, and then reinstalled the old version, version 10 whatever, which was the last actually good version. Now, unfortunately, I will have to update iTunes back up to a modern version at some point, at least if I ever want to update my phone again. You know, my phone's music library. But at least for the moment, I have a decent version of iTunes that I could use. You know, one that's actually good-looking and easily customizable and not full of a lot of bullcrap I don't care about. And it works for this, so we actually have the text crawl again. Oh, also, it's worth noting that it wasn't like I could just uninstall iTunes and reinstall iTunes. No. That would just be too simple. I had to uninstall iTunes, uninstall the Apple application 32-bit and 64-bit programs, uninstall Bonjour, uninstall, God, I don't even remember. There's like 5 other programs you have to uninstall. Then you have to make sure the folders are actually gone so no new files remain. But you need to make sure you keep some of the files because you don't want to lose your library. Then you got to reinstall, and you have to reinstall in a certain way. And just, oh my god, it's just this gigantic pain. I spent like half an hour fixing iTunes this morning. Anyways. Am I super duper delayed on chat? Because people are just now mentioning DayZ. Like, Kefka. I'm so sorry, Chocolate Rob. Don't worry, it does get better. No, seriously. It does get better. Like, if I stab you with a knife for an hour, eventually it'll get better. Okay, so that's not a huge delay. Ah, whatever. Why would I use Winamp? Actually, I used to use Winamp, but it's just harder to keep track of certain things the way I want to, and it's way easier to update the actual music onto my physical phone with iTunes. Well, I don't have anything to say about DayZ. It's coming out, and then moving on. That's why it's not in a proper news segment. Pardon me. There we go. Don't worry, we have plenty of other negative things to talk about. I have a theme. I have a theme for today's Loreweek, and that theme is... I'm old. So, oh my, I remember the times of video games, dim televised vision games. But I'll get to that in a moment. This doesn't really deserve its own news post, so I'm going to put this in the non-news thing. For those of you not aware, the FTC had formally finished its hearing stuff with the... Oh, God, what's their frickin' name? I'm sorry, give me a second. Martin and Castle, that's their names. See, the FTC had finished its ruling on the Martin and Castle thing. That actually was several months ago. I'm mentioning it now because there was some concern that it needed to be looked at again, and this is just ridiculous. So for those of you not aware of the full situation, let me just give you a really brief insight. CSGO has a lottery thing, which is basically actually gambling. Real life money is involved, and you gamble, and then if you win, or if they win, or whatever, you get, like, skins through CSGO and stuff like that, and then you get those things, you can sell them for real money, blah blah blah, right? Very simple and horrible. It's actually a really messed up situation, but I don't want to get too much into that. Best fireplace ever, exclamation point. Another foggy day for us here, comma. I tried to take a picture, but it keeps trying to cut through the fog to make it look less foggy than it is. Hang on just a second. Lord Ed. Thank you. Thank you very much, Psychotic. How's the volume, by the way? Since we're using the new iTunes, and I don't know how the audio values work on the old iTunes. Help me out, guys. You gotta tell me. Anyway, so it's straight up gambling. And what they were doing was incredibly scummy, and I do mean incredibly scummy. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. I've already talked about this. Basically, there were these people who were... Oh, for God's sakes, one moment. There were these people, Martin and Castle, who were pretending to not be involved in this lottery thing, and we're actually the people running the lottery. So, like, for example, they'd put out a video saying, "Oh my God, I had a 1% chance to win, and I totally won! Isn't that awesome?" And they wouldn't disclose the fact that they rigged it so that they would win, to make it look like it's more likely that you will win, so more people will use the site, which is called CSGO Lotto, in order to gamble through it and make them more money. Pretty much straight up scummery. Just no arguing it, no getting around it. Flat out scum tactics, right? Well, that actually went to the FTC, which is one of the regulatory boards here in the United States, for those of you not aware. And the FTC said, and I quote, "There is now a new set of standards for CSGO Lotto which forbids them from misrepresenting any endorser as an independent user or ordinary consumer of a product or service, and must clearly and conspicuously disclose their endorsements and connections with other endorsers, submit a compliance report to the FTC within the next year, and maintain a variety of records relating to their accounting, consumer complaints, marketing material, and personnel for the next 10 years. That's it. That's it. That's the penalty for what they were doing. I don't actually know the options on my camera that much, comma, go figure, period. Plain English? Don't do that anymore. That's the plain English version. No financial penalty. No legal penalty. No nothing, basically. This is pretty much the equivalent of saying, yeah, it's the slap on the wrist. Or as my mom used to do, it's just the flick. It's hard to even do that. That's it. It's worth noting that in addition to scummy tactics, these two people and their site have dragged in a fairly large amount of money based on the back of these scummy tactics. Don't do that again. Ugh. Anyways. Moving on. Let's talk about actual news, because that's not actual news. I just wanted to... I'm sorry, I mentioned... I started a sentence. The reason it came up again is because very recently... basically, the FTC was asked to look into it again. And the FTC said, no, we're cool with it. Now, the one tiny silver lining here is if they're found to be non-compliant within the next year, the FTC is going to come down on them like a ton of bricks. But the FTC has given them the chance to be compliant for the next year, so of course they're going to. Whatever. So I'm old. I'm gonna allow my oldness to creep in for just a second here. You ready for this? This is just this one little thing I'm gonna let myself be old about, okay? Mobile games. Hold on. Let's do some definitions really quick. Let's do this. Let's split up mobile gaming into 3 categories, because that's really how it is. There's utter nonsensical gibberish garbage. The same as we saw in the old Steam Greenlight, okay? That's stuff that basically does not even qualify as a game. Okay? So, we're not talking about that. That's just literal trash. We're going to move that over to the side, okay? So we got 2 definitions left. Ignoring the garbage, there's 2 types of mobile games. There are games... There are mobile products designed to rip money out of you, and then there are games that are on a mobile platform, okay? Now, the former is easy to define. There is a Final Fantasy mobile game that came out a few months ago, Final Fantasy New Empire, I want to say, which is one of the most disgusting examples of a game, a product. I really don't want to call it a game. A software, let's call it a software. A software on mobile that is designed to try and rip money out of your pocket as much as possible. I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about with this kind of thing. Now, the strategy, and I gotta put that in quote-unquote, type of mobile game is the most common one that I tend to see. Maybe it's just because of my search history on the App Store. But, like, for example here, let's just look at here. What do we got? Rules of Survival. There you go. There's one right there. In fact, I bet if I just look for strategy games, I'll find something here. What do you want to bet? They actually changed how this is organized, so it's not... Give me a second. Let's try this. Here we go. Perfect. Okay. So we've got Vikings War of the Clans, Galaxy at War Online, Tower Madness 2, Dawn of Titans, SimCity Build It, Castle Crush. There's another one that's I just mentioned. I don't know why it's repeating itself. Boom Beach, Clash of Clans again. Last Empire, Stick War, Game of War, Star Wars Commander. Yeah, that totally qualifies. Rise Wars, Forge of Empires. Yep, I think I tried that one. War of Nations, Clash Royale, Clash of Kings. All of these are the same. Mobile Strike. There we go. That's the one I couldn't think of the name of it. Every single one of these is basically the exact same game. And I'm not saying that with hyperbole. I'm not saying that to be, facetious. I know people on the internet, especially, people with shows on the internet tend to delve into the realm of sardonicism to make a point. But let me stress that I'm speaking with total sincerity and clarity when I say that these things are garbage. These things are all build up a base. Initially, it goes very quickly. Then it slows down a lot, and you can only build like one thing basically a day, or maybe 1 or 2 things a day. And the only content after you basically get through the tutorial is to PvP. And when I say PvP, what I mean is it basically takes a snapshot of your base, and then the other person invading your base fights that snapshot. And that's it. That's the game. Oh, of course, you can spend money to get, loot boxes, but also to get resources or to build things immediately, or to, build the better weapons or the better tanks. There's even a Transformers game I actually played. I actually tried quite a few of these, just because I like to make an informed opinion on this stuff, rather than a non-informed opinion. There's a Transformers one, there's the Final Fantasy one I mentioned earlier. It wasn't actually made by Square Enix, thank God. Anyways. So that's the first category of mobile games. And I don't just mean the strategy games. That's just one example. But the Me Too copy-pasting crap is so non-stop in the mobile gaming market. It's actually a little bit insane. There's also the Flappy Birds clones. There's also the Angry Birds clones, which is actually more accurate to say the Catapult clones. But you know what I mean. There's the Connect 3 clones. There's so many Connect 3 clones. Oh my god. There's all this crap, right? And all of that is just over there. Then there are games that are on the mobile platform. Now, this is a pretty broad category too, because there's plenty of games on the mobile platform that aren't that still have microtransactions, that still have loot boxes, that still have things that are trying to rip your money out of you, but at least there's some function of an actual game underneath that, as opposed to all that crap, right? And there are even some games that are actually legitimately good on the phone, although I've noticed, as I've been looking through these, that a lot of the games that I would consider decent games on the phone are actually just ports of PC games or console games that happen to be. I mean, like Plants vs. Zombies, which is actually a pretty decent game, and Plants vs. Zombies 2, which is not quite as good, but at the same time is actually better. It's kind of a weird situation. We've got, like, the top games list here. We've got Minecraft right at the top, of course. Goat Simulator's on here. KOTOR's on here. Roller Coaster Tycoon is on here. Like, this is all in the top-selling paid games. FIFA, I don't know what the FIFA thing is. There's another Match 3 thing. There's another Angry Birds clone. There's a game that's pretending that it's sexy when it's actually not. The new Animal Crossing Cat Quest. Elder Scrolls Legend is on the phone. Hearthstone, of course, is on the phone. You get my point. So that's the third category. Jesus Christ, sir. I have no idea how do you play KOTOR on a touchscreen. I never bought it. There's also XCOM on the phone. I remember that one as well. Now, where am I going with all this? Some of you may remember that I did a stream a long time ago, actually. This is years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago, one of my earliest streams, where I was like, I hate mobile games. And I actually got a lot of flack for that statement. And it's somewhat deserved, because I wasn't using proper definitions. I was grouping up all three of those categories we just defined into mobile games, and I shouldn't do that. So that is my bad. No, I do not, Magister. So, the trash, obviously I hate that. The not actually games, hate that too. Just want to make that completely clear. That crap can go burn. This third category, it's a lot more debatable. But one of my biggest concerns, because I'd seen this happen before, is I don't want what is with this playlist? I'm sorry, hang on a second. Oh, I know what's going on here. Right, I need to hit the random button. I'm also on the wrong playlist anyways. Why is this? Oh, no, don't delete. Sorry, give me 1 second, guys. Here, we'll do something nice and obvious and simple. Anyways, getting back to my point. One of my complaints, and I'm going to say this in old me voice, one of the things I don't like about all them mobile games is they've been taking time and development away from real games. Okay, now that I've said that and hurt my throat, I shouldn't do that. My throat already hurts this morning. The actual point I'm trying to make is that one of my biggest concerns was that mobile games, even an actual mobile game, even the third category, something that's a real game to some extent or another, is so much easier and cheaper and quicker to develop than another game, you know, than a handheld game, or than a console game, or than a PC game. That a lot of developers, this really got going about 3 years ago, and then it kind of stopped, and then it started happening again, and it's been happening again for the last year or two, would basically pull developers off of other gaming projects to work on mobile games. From a purely financial perspective, you can see the point. They may not be making the same kind of money if you look at the money as an aggregate, but percentage-wise, the overhead on a mobile game is a joke. You know, do you know how little it costs to make a mobile game? Do you know how little it costs to maintain a mobile game? You know, we all talk about the service game industry and how so many developers, and I shouldn't say developers, so many publishers and so many gaming companies want to push out service games because then they could keep charging you for them. And a mobile game, almost by definition, at least if it's reasonably designed, is a service game. Because it's designed to keep you playing. It's designed to make sure that you are, logging in every day. That's the whole reason behind that daily reward system. It's to make sure you keep checking in on that game. To try and force you to psychologically think that you're invested in the game, whether you actually are or not. To try and make sure that you keep playing it, to release new quests, or new patches, or new content, or new PvP, or new whatever. Right? All that's a joke. It takes so little to do that. Why not do it? And that irritates me. If I could just be completely blunt. If I could just be as blunt as I possibly can. This is where the old man thing comes in, because that just irritates me. Like, intellectually, yes, I get it. And financially, yes, I get it. And there could be something to be said for really good mobile games. Blah, 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 blah. But it's just the fact that we're getting... And let me get to the actual thing that prompted this discussion. There's a game coming up called... sometimes this month, called Melo, and I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And Melo, which is coming out sometime this month, is coming out instead of a proper sequel. Like, that's what we're getting, instead of, and I'm just going to use my old man terms here again, a real game. Now, yeah, I know, that isn't an accurate statement. Some of you probably are like, what the hell is he talking about? Melo is the World of Final Fantasy sequel. For those of you not aware, World of Final Fantasy was a game I actually enjoyed a lot. It certainly had its flaws, but the best way I could possibly summarize World of Final Fantasy is that it is what Mystic Quest should have been. It is as if someone put some real time and heart and effort and care into making a very polished Mystic Quest. That's what WoF really is, okay? So, it also ended in a way where there was a lot of, I don't want to say holes, but just hints of the greater setting, of the story. It very much felt like a part one in terms of story. I'm not going to spoil that. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it was clearly there's going to be a part two, and there is on the phone. It also, I have to admit, really irritates me because this is a Square Enix game on the phone. Now, if you don't understand why that irritates me, so, we've got Melo, that's coming out, Kingdom Hearts, Union Cross. Yeah, I like that comparison, Leander. Kingdom Hearts, Union Cross, Final Fantasy Record Keeper, Final Fantasy Exvius, Final Fantasy Mobius. Is that it? Is that all of them? I'm not actually sure. But I know there's at least these 5. Now, these 5 mobile games that Square Enix is working on right now, these aren't... I want to stress, these all belong in the third category. These are all games that they're putting real developers and real effort into. No. All the Bravest doesn't count. It's been abandoned. These 5 are ongoing. These 5 are actively being supported to this very day. I mean, there's a freaking patch coming out for Mobius or Exvius, I forget which, like this coming week, which is going to include some information and some content from the Final Fantasy VII remake that's coming out, for God's sakes. They are actively putting development time into maintaining and updating these 5 mobile games with Square Enix's own in-house developers. Now, I want to stress that part too, because there's actually other mobile games that are connected to Square Enix that aren't being pushed out by their in-house developers, like the aforementioned New Empires crap. 5. Now, I'm going to go ahead and give my opinion now and say that I don't like any of the 4 of these that I've actually played. Exvius looked like it was going to be cool, and for various reasons is not. I'm not going to get into specifics. Mobius is basically flashy, but not really good in terms of story or gameplay. Record Keeper... I don't like Record Keeper because it's basically vacuous. They're supposedly adding a story system. We'll see when we get there. I do plan to try it out. But at the moment, it's basically a fighting simulator, which I just have no interest in. And then Kingdom Hearts Union Cross has one of the worst gameplay systems I've ever seen in my life that just happens to be sitting on an actually very interesting and engaging story. So, I mean... my point is, I don't like any of the 4 of these. And I have no interest in being invested in any of the 4 of these things. Now is when I make fun of myself, okay? This might tie into what Carbon is talking about here. Because when I first found out about Melo, excuse me. God, that's a weird phrase to pronounce. I'd already told you my first gut reaction was, ugh, another one? And my second thought was, why isn't Square Enix making any real games right now? Do I still have the list? I might have deleted it, because this is like 2 weeks ago now. Yeah, I deleted it. But let's actually think about this for a moment. Dragon Quest XI, which has actually already come out in Japan and is coming out here in the States in like 2 months, I think. FF15, which is still actively being patched and updated. FF14, which is actually being patched and updated. Octopath Traveler, which I'm really hyped about, and it's coming out next year. The new Dissidia game, which is coming out next year. Well, again, the console version of the new Dissidia game is coming out next year. We've got FF7R, which is in development. We've got Kingdom Hearts 3, which is in development. I don't remember what else. I know there's more. You see how I have turned this around to make fun of myself, because they actually are making real games. In fact, they're making quite a few real games, and I'm actually excited about almost all of these. This is why I had to call this the me making fun of me being old section, because my fears in this case are not actually grounded, apparently. I don't actually know the specifics of what they're doing. I actually tried to look into their financial records or their investment meetings and whatnot, but unfortunately I wasn't able to find any specific information, probably because the last quarter was too long ago and the next quarter isn't coming up yet. I would say no, Necro. There's still some significant variances in the overall style and development. Oh yeah, there's also the new Deus Ex, which we don't actually know anything about other than the fact that they're probably making one. Anyways, point being, I have a suspicion that they're pulling a Blizzard in this case. Now, for those of you not aware what I mean by that, Blizzard put out a game called Hearthstone, which sold like crazy and made them tons of money. And then they put out a game called Overwatch, which sold like crazy and made them tons of money. Now, this is more on Hearthstone than it is on Overwatch, but both games are relevant because Blizzard basically took the funding of both games, like a huge amount of that income that those were pulling in, and basically tossed it at several of their other games and said, here, you have increased budget, do something with it. The most notable recipient of this was World of Warcraft, but it is something that they did, and I find myself curious. This is my biggest theory, is that what they're doing is with these 5 mobile games, which are all actively out, and all of them can spend real money. I mean, just to give you an idea of how kind of disgusting this is, if I could just give my opinion very bluntly here. Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, you can spend $15 a week on that game and gain access to VIP content and new quests and new rewards and bonuses every week for doing that. $15 a week. Now, Maybe I'm old, but that sounds like an absolutely insane amount of money for a mobile game, which isn't that good. In fact, it isn't good at all. It's just got a good story. You can spend a ton of money on all of the titles I mentioned for Square Enix. And I have a feeling they're turning that money around into their, again, incorrect terminology, real games. Interesting, Hazardous. I don't know if I'd call them a necessary evil. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that I don't think they are a necessary evil. Because, well, that's getting into another topic, so I'm actually going to not answer that question. Let's just move on. I've said all I really have to say on this topic. I've been old. Let's be old in another way. Anybody remember cereal? Back in the day when you used to wake up in the morning, get ready for school, pull out a box of cereal, get some milk, eat, maybe sit in front of the TV if you have one. We didn't have one for a while, actually, when I was young. We did have that giant thing with the little TV, little screen, you know. No, Tesla. Trust me when I say that that is not an impact at all. Anyone do that when they were kids? What I used to do, this is when I was closer to, like, grade school rather than being very young. Like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. I used to go get it, get my cereal, whatever it is I had, and I'd eat it while playing, Mega Man. Basically, was my big thing. Play a few levels of Mega Man at home. Because that's an improper... Basically, it's not a $3 billion loss, Tesla. It's the simplest and easiest way I can explain that. $3 billion is not actually what they lost. And the people who are reporting on that have forgotten the fact that their stock has already started to go back up. So, yeah, no actual lost value there. Anyways, so, moving along. Boop. So this is the old thing. Anyone remember this right here? Ignore this for a second. Just look at this. I remember this. I actually remember where I was living at the time. It was Carlsbad. It's Carlsbad, California. And I was going out with my dad, and I used to have this tradition where whenever I'd go and hang out with my dad for a while, because I lived with my mom, we would go and I'd just hit the breakfast aisle while he did his normal grocery shopping, and I'd peruse all the cereals trying to choose which one I was going to go ahead and pick up. And when I first saw this cereal right here, I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to have this cereal, because I was a kid and because it had Mario and Zelda on it. So of course I said that. Now what's funny is even as a kid, I recognized that this cereal was crap. Seriously, anyone remember this crap? It was not good. I mean, you can kind of tell just by looking at it. It's basically just, God, I don't even know, like cocoa. I'm trying to think of a good parallel. It's just slightly sugary, fluffed rice bits. It's crap. It's not good cereal, and I remember this. And again, this is a while ago. This is the new stuff. This is coming out now. In fact, I actually fully plan to go get a box of this whenever it becomes available. Basically just out of curiosity. Just to try it. This basically looks like Lucky Charms. Which I don't know if that's going to be any better or not. But that's not really the reason I'm bringing this up. The reason I'm bringing this up, other than the fact that there's this... Oh yeah, it's going to have amiibo support. Shrug. The real reason I'm bringing this up is because this is the difference between licensing in the 80s and licensing in the whatever the hell we're calling this current era. The 2020s, I guess, at this point. Or the 2010s, excuse me. Because back in the day, licensing was the kind of thing where you would toss... people would pay you money, and then you would put out something really crap and really cheap. And that really crap, really cheap thing would be really crap and really cheap to try and make some of the money back. Now that makes sense. And indeed, I'm actually saying this. Remember, I've got the fog thing today. Forgive me. Let me rewind. Let me redo this sentence. Back in the day, almost all licensing stuff was crap. Nowadays, most licensing stuff is crap. For the same reason as it used to be, because it costs money. For the same reason we haven't really had a lot of good Star Wars games, or a lot of good Star Trek games. For the same reasons that we don't get a lot of good licensing stuff. This, however, is endemic of one of the new mindsets. This actually kind of got going about 5 or 6 years ago is when this really started going. The idea of licensing a product and actually trying to make something good out of it, and therefore trying to make it so that the product is good in addition to having X label on top of it. Now, I know that sounds like a duh to you and me, but from a financial perspective, this was this new, unusual, strange kind of mindset. Because at this point, you're paying money for the license and then paying money for the proper product, right? You are spending more. The only way this is going to be worthwhile is if it somehow brings in even more than you were already anticipating. Thing is, a lot of times, this has been working out. Anybody heard of a game called The Witcher, for example? Now, that's a weird, kind of a slightly different circumstance. But the Witcher series was kind of one of the new licensing things within the new concept, financially, of licensing. The idea of really making a good product that happens to have the right label on it. There's quite a few examples of this recently. I'm sure you could think of some if you thought about it for a second. Now, because people are asking me, let me talk about the amiibo thing. This is actually very simple. It comes with a little thing. You can scan it in to your Switch. Really simple. No, don't turn on. I don't actually want you to turn on. You can scan it into your Switch, and you get a very small bonus for it. And I mean very small. The bonuses you will get will be either a heart or a few coins, and that's it. Now, the thing is, I'm not sure what I think about that. That's basically a whole thing that could be argued back and forth. I said it was a different thing, Hazardous. There's no need to repeat me back to myself, dude. Come on. So this is basically... I can go and get rid of the image now. This is basically the cereal toy coming along with this. And the cereal toys have always been kind of crap and kind of small. But that's a whole other topic, and honestly, I don't really feel the need to discuss that topic, because that gets into the amiibo topic itself. And I don't want to talk about that, because that's a very, very gray situation. So instead, I want to talk to you about another licensed game that's being made soon. Where's my timestamp? I can't see my timestamp. There it is. Because there's another company that kind of probably arguably started this new licensing craze that I talked about, which is just bizarre when you think about it. And that would be Games Workshop. Yes, I know, right? For those of you who know where Games Workshop owns the Warhammer and the Warhammer 40k licenses. They're the ones who put that out. Or is it Gaming Workshop? God, I don't even remember. So, they went out, again, about 6, 7, 8 years ago and said, hey, everyone, and kind of pushed a lot of people to go ahead and push out actual reasonable product that happened to have their label on it. Now, we have gotten some mediocre and some actually bad games out of that labeling. Games Workshop, thank you. But we've also gotten quite a few really good games out of that label, out of that particular perspective, out of that mindset, which is kind of interesting. What video, Leander? That's true, Carbon. That is true. Yeah, Vermintide, the Dawn of War series. The Total Wars that have been coming out and will continue to come out. Apparently, they have been selling very well. Oh, I don't think I've seen that video, Leander. Apparently, Extra Credits has already beat me to the punch on this. What a shock! Anyways, that's the reason I wanted to bring this up is because there is a Warhammer 40k. Yes, I did hazardous. Warhammer 40k 4X game, which is going to be coming out soon. It's called Gladius. Okay. If I find something ticking in my mailbox, Gary, I'll know it's from you. No, Tesla? God damn it. This is just like sci-fi debris all over again. I sit down to talk about something, and he's already talked about it. Whatever. Point being, there's a Warhammer 40k 4X game, which is coming out. And it's called Gladius, for anybody who wants to look into it themselves. And I decided to look into it myself. Now, I've been wanting a really good Warhammer 40k 4X game for a while. So that sounds cool just in the base of it. You know, just the idea that they're putting this out. However, the problem is it doesn't look very good. Awesome, hazardous. That is usually a good thing. Where did I... Here it is. Here it is. Yeah. Gladius Relics of War. That's the actual name of it. It's by a company named Proxy Studios, okay? Now, you might be like, who's Proxy Studios? Well, that's a good question, because I looked into Proxy Studios for a bit. What do you call it when you're an unintentional copycat, Carbon? And they have made basically one other game called Pandora, and a DLC for that, and then a pack for that. And that's kind of it. That's all they've made, is this game called Pandora. So I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and look into this game called Pandora, and it's not good. It's not bad, but by my own estimation, keeping in mind I have not played it or bought it, I'm not dropping $30 just to try out a game, but it looks like a generally what I would call a mediocre to low 4X game. It's got a very basic AI, like really, really, really basic AI. It doesn't really know how to do really nice, efficiently designed UI, presentation of visual elements. It does have some cool ideas. It does have some cool ideas of randomized tech trees, for example, and actually being able to set up, you know, like routes and military strategies, that kind of stuff. So some cool stuff to it. But for the most part, I would call it like a net positive, and that's it, you know. So now this company, which has basically only made one other thing ever, is making a Warhammer 40k 4X game. And I haven't decided what I think of that yet. The playable races are going to be Necrons, hang on, Necrons, Orcs, give me a second. Blah, 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 blah. You're going to show me? Here it is. So Space Marines, Imperial Guard, Orcs, and Necrons. Those are the four that you're actually going to be able to play as. And supposedly each of them is going to be significantly different. And Darth Tyrant is going to give me a Christmas. Thank you very much, Darth Tyrant. I very much appreciate that, especially right now. If all goes well, I'll be spending a lot of money this coming week. So, I have no idea which faction. I have no idea which clan. This is apparently something that they have been working on for quite some time, which is good. The idea that they've been working on this for forever. This was only announced a little over a week ago. $75, Tesla. Each bid is 1 cent. Seriously, thank you, Darth Tyrant. I really appreciate it. So yeah, they've been working on this for a few months. They've been coordinating with Games Workshop for some time on this. There's no apostrophe, it just says Games Workshop here. And they're trying to really focus on having actual, like, hero units, Warcraft 3 style, and actually have a story mode, which sounds cool. And they're supposedly going to have, you know, a full mod support, all sorts of stuff like that. So it does at least make me interested. Now, the funny thing is, they actually already did a stream where they talked about it and showcased it. That was Friday. I did not have a chance to watch that because I was streaming. So if anybody watched that, please feel free to give me any more info on this one. But regardless of interest in the game itself, which I am at least partially interested in, I find it, once again, interesting to see this newer, I suppose I should say, mindset when it comes to licensing video games. I need all those socks. Oh, thank you, Carbon. Thank you. Yeah, I remember Chaos Gate. So, I am kind of hopeful, to get to my final thoughts on this, I'm kind of hopeful that with Games Workshop pushing this, with Nintendo pushing this, because Nintendo's been doing a lot more interaction with other companies in the last 2 or 3 years. Most of them from Ubisoft, but nevertheless, that's, you know, they've been reaching out, trying out. I am hopeful that this is going to lead to people, the money people, which is the terminology I use to describe people who make decisions with regards to companies. I'm hopeful the money people will see that these things are actually valid, that this is a valid strategy, that these are making money, because for the most part, this strategy of releasing and putting out a good product with a license on it is actually working almost consistently across the board. So I'm hopeful we'll see more of this, because I would like to see some good Star Wars games. I'd like to see some good Star Trek games. I'd like to see some good, you know, Mega Man games. Oh, by the way, this is a very anecdotal thing. I forgot about it. Tomorrow, Capcom is streaming something about Mega Man. I have no idea what to think of that. And yes, I actually have played Distant Universe. Disney has also been doing this. That is true. Disney... So... Disney hits so much of the gamut that it's hard to qualify what Disney does as a single strategy. There is crap that Disney pushes out. And then there's really good stuff that Disney pushes out. And then there's stuff that they license out to other people, which is good. And then there's stuff they license out to other people, which is bad. So Disney hits the whole gamut. It's hard to really quantify that one. Yeah, I know. It's just out of nowhere. They're like, hey, Mega Man stream. What? But it is Mega Man's, I believe, 30th anniversary. I'm not sure which exactly. But actually, hang on, real quick. But as someone who is at least a little bit, a small amount, really, like a minuscule bit of a fan of the Mega Man series, I am kind of interested in whatever's going to happen. So at the very least, I will probably go ahead and talk about it next month, or next Loreweek, excuse me. Let's talk about... I mean, I was going to talk about this later, but let's go ahead and talk about Infinity War. Anyone want to talk about Infinity War? After some thought, I've decided I'm not going to do a full trailer analysis of the Infinity War thing. How's the volume? I know 8-bit songs are a little bit different in terms of volume. What am I the fanboy of? Oh, Mega Man. Yeah, I'm totally a fanboy of Mega Man. That's why I roll my eyes at Mega Man X7. Kind of 8, too. Oh, and Command Mission. Bleh. Do you really want me to do the trailer analysis? I'll do a trailer analysis if you really want me to. I'm gonna have to do a bunch of stuff to make that happen, but I can do that. I mean, it's not like I don't know how to. In fact, I think I already downloaded it. Did I? Looks like I did not. Well, that's okay. I could grab it really quick. Doesn't take that long. Give me a moment. We'll go ahead and do the trailer analysis. Which means I need to pause that. On the top page of my YouTube is, you know, would you like to watch this stuff again? And pretty much the first thing on there is yes, Minister. Is this it? Yeah, this is it. Pause. Okay, download the actual version, please. Unfortunately, it takes forever to grab stuff off YouTube nowadays. I swear to God they did something under the hood to prevent people from ripping files off of YouTube. I can't imagine why they do that. So while that's done loading, let's go ahead and talk about Infinity trailer Infinity War in a vacuum without actually having the trailer going. Let me go ahead and say that I am still excited about this movie. For all intents and purposes, to put it into my own terms, if I was just asked to comment on this, I would say that the Marvel MCU is back on track. That they have gotten back to where they need to be. Now, I've talked about this during my Thor Ragnarok discussion, but obviously that's a video that has lots and lots of spoilers for Thor Ragnarok, so in case you didn't actually watch that video or weren't live here, they originally made Hulk and Iron Man 1, right? Those weren't really expected to explode. Hugely troubled, hugely problematic creation. Anybody who's looked back into those knows that was a really, really troubled production, right? Then Iron Man 1 was a smash success, not just critically, but most importantly, it was a financial smash success. So then Kevin Feige, God, I hope I'm saying his name right. I actually have a lot of respect for the man. Came out and said, awesome, let's go ahead and do this as a unified thing. Let's make canon a thing in movies, which, remember, it was pretty unusual at the time. Nowadays, basically everyone's doing that. Almost everyone is, I mean, we've got two Paramount, I think, products who are both coming out. You know, we've got the monster movie one for like the low-level stuff with the Mummy and the Werewolf Wolfman and all that. And then we've got the Godzilla King Kong thing. DC is trying desperately to make this kind of thing working. You know, we've got this all over the place now. But at the time, it was just such a weird idea. And Kevin, I'm just going to call him Kevin because apparently I can't pronounce his name, just really had received a lot of opposition. But he pushed it forward. He said, we're making this happen. And so we got what we now refer to as Phase 1, which is, you know, Captain America, Thor 1, God, I don't remember everything. There was another one. Help me out. Oh, Iron Man 2, which, nah. And then that all led into the Avengers. Now, the Avengers was another smash success, even more successful, again, financially, than Iron Man 1 had. So that was, whoa, boom, extremely popular, extremely successful. And so naturally they brought Kevin out of the picture and went with a completely different perspective. They completely changed their approach for Phase 2. And they started saying, let's go ahead and stop doing continuity in Phase 2. So there was little touches of continuity, but they pushed the show Agents of Steel away from the continuity. They pushed the movies away from continuity, and there wasn't really a lot of attempt to build up into a... Basically, what they'd done in Phase 1 was movies build up to Avengers. In Phase 2, it was movies. And then Ultron. Now, let me go ahead and give my opinion that I still like the Phase 2 movies. Honestly, the only MCU movie I don't really care for is Iron Man 2, and even that is watchable. It's not actively bad, it's just not one I'd have any desire to rewatch. So, it's not like I dislike Phase 2, but Phase 2 didn't really do anything. It was just, here's a bunch of movies, okay? Then Age of Ultron happened, which I liked, but was just kind of there. And then, for whatever reason, they just decided to shift back to Kevin, and so Phase 3 has been trying to do this thing again. Here's where the problem comes in. They now have had the rather unenviable task of not only building up to Infinity War, which I remind you they were doing as far back as, I guess, Thor 1? I'm not sure of the exact timeline, but they've been building up to Infinity War since forever ago. Like, absolutely forever ago. And now they're kind of, like, changing gears. Hang on, just quick. There we go. Okay. So now they're trying to build up to Infinity War while keeping in mind the stuff that wasn't building into it. Now, I talked about this again during Thor Ragnarok. And again, I'm going to try not to spoil Thor Ragnarok too much. But all I'm going to say is that there's not really been a lot of build-up to Infinity War. And I think that's one of the biggest problems, was because it was intended that we were going to be going on this 10-year-long journey, or however long it's been, of solid build-up straight to this point, and then they basically shifted drivers for a while there and completely went off the road, and then came back, and then went off the road, and then came back on the road again, and you get the problem. So I am still excited about Infinity War, absolutely. But what buildup has there been for it, really? Other than a few cameos here and there. Thematically, what has been building up to Infinity War? Narratively, what has been building up to Infinity War? Now, Age of Ultron, ironically, was a build-up to Infinity War, definitively and narratively. What are you talking about, Bartman? I have heard nothing about Infinity War being one movie. Everything I've heard, including stuff I looked up just this week, was still talking about Infinity War Part 1 and Infinity War Part 2. See, Guardians, I guess? I don't know. I'm not sure I agree that Guardians 1 or 2 built into Infinity War. I'm not sure I agree with that. I mean, the gems, yeah. I'll give you the gems. But again, that's the realm of post-credit scenes, you know? Narratively, thematically, how did Guardians build up into Infinity War? Oh, they changed the name of the second one. Okay, that explains it. I was going to say, it's still 2 movies, last I checked. But yeah, we did see Thanos. That's true. Still haven't answered my question. Yeah, Doctor Strange also had a little bit of a tiny hint. Just a tiny little hint. Now, I will agree that one of the biggest things we've been seeing to, I suppose, build up to Infinity War is the idea that we're building the team, basically. You know, we've actually got a fairly widespread variety of characters who have a fairly widespread of, for lack of a better term, specialities or classes, right? You know, to use the video game term. So, you know, we've got the leader, we've got the tech guy, we've got the shrinker, we've got the genius, we've got the people who know, you know, have the knowledge and understanding, we've got the heavy, we've got the melee, we've got the caster, we've got the other caster. You know, we're building a class. But for the most part, the actual events of Infinity War, again, this is just my opinion, and I haven't heard anyone disagree really on this one, at least in a way I agree with, hasn't really been built up to in a real, proper, significant way, with the exceptions I already mentioned. That's my biggest concern, is that I feel like this is just, it's just like, this is just my impression, but we've had these little tidbits of world building, and certainly the world building has been significant across, you know, the movies. We've gotten a lot of setting establishment, a lot of setting continuity across the movie, so that's cool. But it's just like, here's a movie, here's a movie, here's a movie, here's a movie, here's a movie. Infinity War feels like just another movie. I hope to be wrong about that. We'll find out. But let's go ahead and showcase the trailer, which you're going to have to give me a moment on. Oh, of course it's the wrong size. One moment. Why would you do this? Why would you put it into this resolution? Is that going to do? That might do. One moment. Is this... I can't even tell. I need something on the right side of the screen so I can tell if I've got it all. Nope, I don't. Jesus Christ. You know what? This is stupid. Give me 1 second. Yeah, let's do it this resolution. This is so stupid. Ignore the voot. Ignore the voot. We're just going to do this really basic. Oh, Jesus Christ. This is going to be really, really basic, isn't it? One moment. This is just the weirdest thing. Iron Man getting religious. There actually is a voot going on right now. But that's not related. This is our resolution, guys. This is just, I don't even know what this is. All right, whatever.
There was an idea to bring together a group of remarkable people.
To see if we could become something more.
By the way, yes, that is Vision right there.
So when they needed us, we could fight the battles
that they never could.
I gotta admit, I really love the Avengers theme, the leitmotif, by the way. It's good stuff.
In time, you will know what it's like to lose.
This is Thanos speaking, by the way.
So desperately that you're right, yet to fail all the same. Dread it. Run from it. Destiny still arrives.
Evacuate the city. Engage all defenses. And get this man a shield.
Sorry.
Fun isn't something one considers when balancing the universe. But this does put a smile on my face. Who the hell are you guys?
So yeah, May, we're getting this. God, I love that final song. So now we're going to turn the audio off and do the actual analysis. So first, let's cover the obvious stuff. I can't help but notice, again, this is all trailer magic, so how much of this is actually legit, who knows. But there's quite a bit of Stark being focused as effectively the main character. At the very least, as one of the main, I suppose, oppositions to Thanos in particular. Now, that makes a degree of sense. In many ways, Stark... I'm sorry, Zoan. Stark is effectively the leader of, not the Avengers, but just the opposition, the unified force of superheroes on Earth. I mean, there's no real arguing this point. He is the brains, he is the money, he is the politics. He has those three things which all allow him to push back against whatever is necessary. So, makes sense. He is also, ironically, one of the most flawed of the Avengers, and indeed, I love his portrayal of him in the movies. In fact, I actually was not an Iron Man fan until the Iron Man movies, but moving along. There is an order, Necro, but it'd take me a bit to get to it. Basically, the actual chronological order is fine. He is kind of the Batman of the setup here. Now, this is interesting. So this is one of the sanctums. I don't know which one. It doesn't really matter. It's probably the New York sanctum. You'll notice Hulk here, of course, I mean Mark Ruffalo, has kind of come in through that. I'm pretty sure this isn't some trailer trickery. I'm pretty sure this is a one-to-one back-and-forth shot between... God damn it, this is so stupid. I'm sorry. Hang on. Are you seriously not going to let me... Give me a minute. Yeah, I saw the door, so I'm pretty sure this is New York. So, okay, this is probably a straight one-to-one shot of the Hulk having crashed down here. I'm not 100% sure how he got here, but considering where he was last, this is interesting. However, there is also a spoiler for Thor 3 here. I'm not going to give context. All I'm going to say is that we see Mark Ruffalo quite a bit in this movie, and that is a spoiler for Thor 3, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Some of you have seen the movie, know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, here's Vision and, I forget her name, continuing the connection that the two of them have. That makes sense. I'm with that. I also tend to think that this is towards the beginning of the movie. I agree with, because there's two big, thank you, Wanda, thank you. Yeah, I knew Scarlet Witch, I couldn't think of her name. Anyways, first of all, he still has the gem, nice and obvious. Second of all, it makes a lot of sense to me given Vision's arc, such as it is. Because he's really only been in the one movie in any significance. But it makes sense to me that he would deliberately be trying to present himself as something more acceptable to her as his continued attempts to adapt. I suppose he was in 2 movies total. You get my point. Not really sure what to make of this. Thor, obviously. On board the Whatcha-Fig. So, Ruffalo again. And in fact, the fact that he's right next to a Hulkbuster arm just kind of makes me raise an eyebrow. I'll talk about this more in just a second. And of course, there's him talking to Natasha. Not sure I like the dye job, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Long intro. Long intro. I like how Ant-Man is smaller there. Quick note, I do like how you can clearly see the Avengers building in the New York skyline. That's just kind of a nice little touch. They've been doing that very consistently in all of the films. It's just a cute little thing I like. Now, here, once again, we see the issues with the crashed library. The Milano, thank you. That's what I was thinking of. I couldn't think of the damn name of it. Once again, we noticed that Ruffalo is Ruffalo. That he is actually Banner. I should be more clear about my statement. That he is Bruce Banner here. And that Stark has shown up, which of course makes sense. Stark and Banner have actually had a lot of chemistry pretty much ever since the beginning. Ever since the two first met all the way back in Avengers. And I kind of like the idea that these two have a degree of friendship going on, or at least did before, you know, he left in Age of Ultron. And of course, if this isn't, this is probably the biggest piece of evidence that this is in fact the New York Sanctum, because Stark would probably be here, you know, and therefore would be the quickest and easiest person to actually get here. And yeah, you notice he's got his phone there. It's really hard to make out, but you can kind of see the screen glowing. Oh, yeah. And that is very likely to be the New York doors based on what we're seeing outside there. I mean, you don't do a New York shot without a cab in that. That's visual shorthand for this is New York. You have a cab in the background. That's not a joke. That's not me making fun. That is actually a movie trick a lot of people have done in television as well to showcase this is New York. You have taxis in the background. Anyways, now, I actually don't like this as much as I thought I would, because I thought they did a really good job of portraying Spider-Man's reflexes and Spidey sense, for lack of a better term, in... well, okay, let me rewind just a second. They did a really good job of portraying his reflexes and his ability with his powers, but he didn't really have much of a Spidey sense in Spider-Man Homecoming. In fact, that was one of the things I commented on. Yes, this is the new Spider-Man, the one from Spider-Man Homecoming. But that right there makes me think that this is basically the beginnings of Spider-Sense starting to come into its own. Like he's starting to actually have it to a more, I guess, long-term perspective, for lack of a better way to put that. In other words, we see him being able to react to things that are about to hit him, but not things that are like 50 or 30 or 100 feet away. Again, I'm not going to spoil Spider-Man Homecoming, but I always got the impression in Homecoming that his spider sense specifically was still developing. Now the idea that he's getting this from something that's happening, and we actually get a shot of this, that far away, because again, it's the same shot, I kind of like that idea. And again, the idea that his powers are still developing, or that his knowledge of his powers are developing. So then we see that thing. Now, I should know what those are called, but I don't, forgive me. But those are the gateways. Let's just call them what they are. Big ol' sucker. Notice, again, Banner. I just feel like pointing that out, because Banner is actually in this trailer a lot. And we already know, thanks to some behind-the-scenes discussions, that that Banner, the Hulk, whatever you want to call him, is going to have a story arc. It began in Thor 3. It is going to continue in this movie and in the next Infinity War movie. That's something we already know for certainty. So it doesn't really surprise me that he is presented so much in the trailer. And of course, there is no way to discuss this without spoiling Thor 3. So on the off chance you don't want Thor 3 spoilered, please mute me for the next about a minute and a half. This is your big warning. Spoiler, 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 spoiler. Spoiler, 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 spoiler. Okay. That's your warning. That's it. These are Asgardians. No, it's very clear. I'm not going to go into the full details, and I can't rewind. God damn, I can only rewind like 30 seconds. That is so stupid. Anyways, so people who are smarter than me and more committed to these have already done the one-to-one parallels. I'm not going to bore you with that. These are clearly Asgardians. And I've seen the images myself. I've seen the parallels myself. At the end of Thor Ragnarok, Thanos' ship, which we know it's Thanos' ship, it's the Sanctuary 2, shows up at their ship, at the vessel they're using to evacuate Asgard. And then this happens. So, are they dead? How many of them are dead? How much of this was ruined? I mean, there's a lot of questions here, but basically we know that stuff goes down. Now, this right here, I think this is trailer misdirection. And again, we're still in Thor spoilers. I think this is misdirection because that was Loki's arc back in Thor 3. The very idea that he would keep being the traitor, the very idea that he would be turned back to being evil and manipulate, ha ha ha. I don't buy it. The whole point of Loki's character arc in Thor 3 was to get away from that. I think this is him being the pragmatic leader and saying, okay, here it is. Leave us alone, please. In the hope. Yeah, exactly. I think this is Loki saving what's left of the Asgardians. I also wouldn't be surprised, and Leander got there before me, I also wouldn't be surprised if Loki, who knows exactly what the Hulk is capable of, twice, with his trickery, with his illusionistness, tossed Hulk back to Earth prior to giving the Tesseract to Thanos. I mean, that makes lots of sense, right? Loki has personal experience with the Tesseract. Loki is good at thinking ahead and having that kind of illusionary stuff going on. Loki knows what the Hulk is capable of, and we know that Banner ends up back on Earth. All the pieces fit together pretty nicely there. It is actually possible that one of the reasons that we have any kind of chance with the initial assault of Earth is because Loki did this. Oh, that's another thing. Loki also has worked with Thanos and understands just how mean of a bastard he is. Probably better than most people in this setting do. So, that's my take on this scene. Sorry I had the most to talk about this. Let's go and move on from Thor Ragnarok spoilers. So then Thanos shows up. Now, let me just go ahead and say, spoilers are free now. Let me just go ahead and say that I do like Thanos' new look, but I like it more for the character perspective, for lack of a better term. Now, for those of you who haven't been reading the interviews or the behind-the-scenes stuff, they've already talked about the fact that Thanos is going to be not the Warlord anymore, that he has abandoned his title of the Warlord, and now he is on this quest. And he says it himself in the movie, the reshaping of order or whatever throughout the cosmos. This is Thanos. This is not Thanos conquering some other area. This is not Thanos leading an army to victory. No, that's all his day job. This is him getting real. And I like that. I like that perspective. I like him. Yeah, bringing balance to the universe. Thank you. I knew he had a specific quote. This is him getting serious. And I kind of like the visual presentation of it, especially given how the gauntlet itself looks, which we'll see in a moment. So, now this is kind of interesting because I don't think this is New York. I could be wrong. But you'll notice this area is already kind of devastated, and there's already some debris and stuff floating around the background. I'm not sure what's up with that. Now, this is obviously New York. Or at least, I shouldn't say that, actually. I should take that back. Because obviously Spidey has had a chance to change into the Iron Spider suit, which is awesome. I still think he should have taken it at the end of Homecoming. That's all I'm going to say about that. But it does look awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing some Iron Spider. This, I have no idea what to make of this. This just looks like Thor trying to manually prevent one of these stargates or gateways or whatever from properly forming. And yeah, I agree, Xander is more likely, unless he's already done that. Maybe it's in a backstory kind of a thing, like, you know, 10, 20, 30 minutes into the film, it's like, you know, Thanos has gone back and crushed the hell out of such and such. So, Cap. Obviously. Remember, Cap's actually technically a fugitive right now. Oh, and he has a beard. Looks good on him. Hulk armor is back. Oh, also, that's Wakanda. I'm like 90% certain that's Wakanda in the background there. Please feel free to disagree, because I might be missing something. Again, I've been kind of really busy the last few months, so I might have been super missing this. But yeah. Also, we're pretty sure that there's going to be some significant fight happening in Wakanda, which means that the theory that Black Panther is going to include a stone, like one of the final stones that we don't know about. Remember, we actually discussed this several times before. You know, I think Soul is the one we're missing. Where's the Soul Stone, or whatever the final stone is? And several people, including myself, have posited the idea that it's here in Wakanda, and it's responsible for their overall prosperity and technology and all that. And I'd say this is pretty good evidence that that is in fact true. I mean, could be wrong, of course. But you'll notice, once again, the giant things slamming down seem to be here in the Wakandan area. I meant to pause it earlier, forgive me. More fighting. I just meant terrain-wise. Also, here's Thanos just beating the crap out of Spidey, even in the iron suit. Note the situation here. Now, what's interesting is that is not Thanos standing on Vision's chest. I don't know who that is standing on Vision's chest. He's got the spear, and he's trying to retrieve the stone. Any thoughts? I mean, all we have to go off of is basically his foot there. And, of course, here we see Thanos, who already has the Violet Stone, adding the Tesseract Stone to it. Also, given the lighting of this area, I would bet money that this is actually towards the beginning of the movie. I would bet money that this is right after the Loki scene earlier. Because I know this is reading into that a little bit much. But you notice not only does it look like there's some kind of fire present, but the overall lighting is actually very dark. In other words, a place where the lights are out, where things are devastated, and where we've got a fire going on. So, yeah, I think this is right after the Loki scene earlier. That would be cool, Carvin. I have no idea if they're going to do that. So, and then again, same general kind of setup, dark flames, etc. And there we see he has those two stones very clearly, which means that whatever this scene happened, because I'm pretty sure this is, I'm almost positive this is not New York. I could be wrong. But this is clearly the spot where he came out from the portal earlier. So we can at least connect those two scenes, right? So that would mean that wherever he went, wherever he is here, he went there after taking the Tesseract Stone. So it's possible that that planet in the beginning, which might be this planet, which might be Xandar, as we've theorized, would be his third stop, basically. The only way that doesn't line up is because we already had hints in the background in Thor 3, this isn't really a spoiler, of the fact that that several areas are being devastated and, you know, he can't find the other stones, so... Oh, sorry, I meant to... Oh my god, this is the stupidest thing. You're really not going to let me... Oh my god, we have to go all the way back here. speed us up a little bit. Hey, we're back. And then we're back, and then we're back, and then we're back, and then we're back, and then we're back. Let's get back down to normal speed here. There we go. Jesus Christ. There we go. So you'll notice, same location, right? Same general location as wherever the hell he was with the previous scenes. What I find most interesting about this, and I know this sounds like a very minor point, is he's punching with his right hand. The gauntlet's on his left. Now, I know that's a really minor point, but I find it interesting because it helps to showcase the, I guess for lack of a better term, the Titan. Because he hasn't been, I don't think he's even been really called the Mad Titan all that often in the MCU. I think it's been brought up a couple of times in Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's it. So I like the perspective that he doesn't actually need the gauntlet to beat the crap out of someone. It's also probable that he's just playing with people and having fun here. Oh yeah, by the way, Bucky's back in Wakanda. But yeah, he doesn't need the gauntlet to wreck him. Why would he? Here's Wakanda again. Big battle. Gotta have the big battle. Of course. Also, a couple of characters are barely mentioned here, but they do get a little bit of things. We saw Bucky. We'll actually see Bucky twice. We see Falcon there. And you'll notice we've also got... I don't know, guys. This is what I really want to ask you, because I'm curious. There's two important things here. First of all, notice Hulk is Hulk again. For those of you who saw Thor 3, that's relevant. Second of all, War Machine. I'm assuming that's War Machine. I mean, I can't imagine it's not. But if that is War Machine, then what happened? And if that isn't War Machine, then who the hell is that? Because that looks, to me, that looks a lot like the War Machine suit. I'll get a slightly closer up shot there. I don't want to go too far because rewinding is terrible. I personally like the idea that War Machine is basically in a situation where he can't actually move or walk properly without the suit, but he still insisted on, for lack of a better term, suiting up. Because if there's one thing that's been consistent in the MCU, at least, it's the fact that he's kind of a patriot. And, hey, we're being invaded by aliens is the kind of thing he would insist on being involved in. So I like the idea, as Leander said, as I said earlier, that he's still paralyzed in the suit. And I like the idea that he's involved and hopefully will not die in a last-ditch awesome effort to save the world. Also, very, very small note here. I like how Cap is front and center in this charge. Because, as I've said before, he's the captain, you know? That is pretty much his superpower. He's the leader with the charisma and the knowledge and the skill and the force of will and drive to actually make the team into a team. That's been true pretty much since forever. So, yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, Cap has some gloves on which look like Wakandan gloves. I'm not sure what to make of that exactly yet. Any deaths? I would be astonished if they don't kill anybody in this movie. No, I really would be astonished about that. Because, first of all, from an out-of-character perspective, it makes sense. The franchise has been going on a while, and the actors are getting more expensive. Second of all, from an in-character perspective, it makes sense. Because they need to get rid of some of these people to prove the situation is serious. And killing someone is the easiest and quickest way to do that. Oh yeah, by the way, the Guardians of the Galaxy are in this too. Hi. Oh, damn it, I didn't pause. Whatever. Teenage Groot was there. She was there. Blah, blah, blah. No! Not Tony from accounting. We actually talked quite a bit over in the Thor Ragnarok film of exactly how many people could die and who the most likely people is who could die and blah blah. We talked about that. So let's get back to an actual video and go all the way back up to here. Hi guys, did you miss me? So that's my trailer analysis that you guys requested. I hope you enjoyed. I am curious, where's my notes at this point? I've been so thrown off by that. Here we go. Vector Globe. I do have a couple other things to talk about, very briefly. Of course it is hazardous. It's to show my power. Unlimited power. Being able to spin the earth the wrong way. Let me just go ahead and say I am excited. Let me just summarize. I'm looking forward to Black Panther. I mean, as I've said before, I've been a Black Panther fan for forever. Pretty much until I quit comics as a whole. Ever since Black Panther got reinvented up to then. And I am also I'm excited about Infinity War. And I don't remember what else is coming out next year. I feel like there's another one. Is it Marvel? Is Captain Marvel coming out next year? I don't remember. I know there's another one. Anyways, I do have one last thing to talk about. I mean, I could mention some other things, but I really only have one other thing that's Loreweek worthy. And that's that I really want some music. But not Mega Man music. Let's not go with Mega Man music. Let's go with Conquering the Universe music. I think that's a good way to do this. Let's go. Let's conquer. You know what? I know a good Conquering the Universe song. Give me just a second to find it. No, I have not, Necro. Nor will I until the Legion lore run. So, Civilization 6 is getting its first expansion soon. For those of you who have not heard about that. All three of you. So, unfortunately, we don't actually know all the details yet. It's coming out February 8th next year, so it's not coming out for basically 3 months now. But I'm a little hesitant, but I'm hopeful because each Civ 5 expansion basically made Civ 5 better. So, you know, at the very least, I've got the consumer trust built in. I have played Dark Souls 2, and Dark Souls 3. Okay. So, I'm at least looking forward to this. What we have heard so far, I'm going to cover this very briefly for you. They're going to try to add this new concept called ages. Not eras, ages. Now, every so often, and I haven't given a lot of specific details, you get stuff to happen, and then basically the game totals up your score. If you do well enough, you enter a golden age, which is good. You know, I think we all know what a golden age means. If you do badly, you enter a dark age. Now, a dark age is interesting, and I kind of like the way they do this, because the dark age isn't just a penalty, it's a challenge. So obviously you're getting some loyalty losses, and you're going to be losing some production, or losing some finances, or losing some units. But during the dark age, you will gain access to new technologies, new ideas, or new buildings, which are specifically designed to contradict the Dark Age. Basically to pull a benefit out of the Dark Age, so you actually are still benefiting from it overall, in some specific way. And if you overcome the Dark Age, if you actually manage to, score enough to pull out of the Dark Age, you don't get a Golden Age, you get a Heroic Age. And a Heroic Age is a Golden Age on crack, which is exactly what it sounds like. It is a super amazing, everything is awesome forever thing. Give me 1 second. We'll go with this one. Cool concept, right? Like, I like that idea. It's designed, the name of the expansion is Rise and Fall. And the idea is to make more of a flow of your civilization, whereas in most 4X games you either do this or you do this. So cool, I like this. They're also going to have this system called dedications, which give you a buff on top of your loyalty unit. Not a lot of details about that, but dedications add cool. Yes, they're adding timelines as well. The loyalty system, this is a little bit. So, the loyalty system is basically what they're doing to allow us to flip cities. Anybody who played, I think it was Civ 4? I think? Oh, by the way, you wanted an example of a heroic age, World War II. The flip system, I think it was Civ 4, was a thing where it was possible to conquer other territories, other cities, without actually sending in troops or forcing it diplomatically. Now, that was through the culture flipping, but this is an attempt to reinvent the wheel on that. Loyalty is specifically designed to make it so that you have now had... you have to maintain the loyalty of your own cities, obviously, and then if the enemy isn't maintaining their loyalty, or you can specifically do actions to reduce their loyalty, then you can have it flipped. You guys are... I'm sorry, do we really need to go into this? World War II was a dark age. I think we could all agree on that. What happened right after World War II? Anyways, so... Oh, culture flipping was not in Civ 5. I know that for absolute certainty. So the idea is that you can then flip a city and be like, ah, skunk! There we go. And once the city has been flipped, Jesus Christ, drop it, okay? Once you flip the city, you'll have to then maintain its loyalty again, because if you don't maintain its loyalty, then nothing, everything's terrible. What else? I'm looking at... some civilizations are going to be added who have bonuses specifically towards flipping and increasing loyalty. There's also going to be a situation where Dark Age... If you're in a Dark Age and you have cities with a direct border to someone who has a Golden Age, it's going to be more likely that they're going to flip, What else here? Oh, they're adding governors. Now... based on how they describe this, the governors sound similar to what Master of Orion does with governors and mayors and that kind of a thing. So you only can have 7 governors, like, total. And there's one of each type, so you can only have one of each type of governor. And your governors give you certain bonuses, and they can level up, and it's Master of Orion. So that's cool. I like that. What they don't say a lot about the specifics of governors, other than that's the general perspective they're going to go with that. So, let's go with... Now, this is the part that I'm actually most excited about, which is the changes to the alliances. If I could be... Oh yeah, Stellaris also had governors. That's true. I actually forgot about that. But I played Master of Orion 2 a lot. What do you want from me? If I could be so bold, and I've actually talked about this literally yesterday, the biggest thing I have wanted for forever is to have a better AI for diplomacy in 4X games. I've wanted that since all the way back in Civ 2. Probably not Tesla. So, the alliance changes sound cool on paper. We'll see how it comes out. I probably will be doing some kind of a premiere run of this expansion. So they're going to have different types of alliances rather than just an alliance. Scientific alliance, which they gave some details which are not written in this article I'm reading, but this, like, for example, a scientific alliance, if your ally has researched a tech, it's quicker for you to research it, and if you both are researching the same thing, you get bonuses to researching it. Research is faster, that kind of stuff. There's also going to be economic alliances, military alliances, and, woo. I don't know how they're going to go with that. I don't know what they're going to do with it. It just sounds like something that's at least taking one step in the direction of trying to make the diplomacy better, so... fingers crossed. We will roll on high as Sultan. The emergencies is another kind of cool thing. They're really vague about emergencies. Emergencies sound kind of like what I would call events. So, hey, the 2 examples they give is someone drops a nuke, and so an emergency event happens, and everyone gets new stat bonuses and new quests and all that kind of stuff. Another one that was listed was the idea of one of the holy cities, a city that's actually one of the foundations of one of the religions in the setting. gets conquered. And so, you know, with the conquest, oh my god, we need to have a holy war, you know, and then we get new rights to attack or new whatever. I really wish I had more details to tell you, but unfortunately I just don't. Now, they have been very, very quiet about what they're going to be doing with regards to new civilizations. I have heard rumors, I have heard all kinds of things which are, you know, not actually verified, but I haven't heard any actual facts about who they're introducing for new civs. But I have heard that they want to make these new civs different, rather than just, here's a new guy, and then they've got this one slightly different unit. They want to make them actually play differently, kind of similar to, what was it, Venice in Civ 5? So, that sounds cool. Yeah, it's kind of the same direction I'm going in general, Bartman Dilemma. This all sounds cool, but I've seen sounds cool before in a game called Mass Effect Andromeda. So, they're adding new districts, new units, blah, blah, blah. You know, all the usual stuff you'd see from that. Hang on a second. I can't play a vocal song. We'll go back to this. Yeah, they will most likely be slowly announcing this stuff bit by bit as it comes out. I am at least going to probably pick this up. Maybe. We'll see. I mean, we will see. It will be nice to see what they do with it. And again, I do have some consumer trust built up because Civ 5's second expansion specifically turned Civ 5 from a game to probably my favorite Civilization game. And I did like Civ 6 a lot, despite its flaws. My biggest complaint with Civ 6 is the fact that no one seems to have actually done anything with regards to scenarios, which is what I wanted most out of Civ 6, so whatever. Also, I'm just going to toss that on super quick. I was just wanted to mention there's a couple of cat games coming out. That are out, I think. There's one called Cat Quest, which is on the phone, the Switch, and the PC, which is basically a Elder Scrolls parody cat game. It's cute. I don't know what else to say about it. I've stopped playing it. I don't have time to play games. And Cat Tales, where you can actually play as a feral cat, which is basically a survival game as a cat. I have to admit, that actually sounds kind of cool. I mean, I've kind of a little bit tired of survival games in general, and I like the idea of survival games, but in my opinion, most survival games don't actually do a good job of being a survival game. So, playing a cat survival game rather than playing a person survival game at least is adding something to the mix. I wanted to at least comment on that, because a friend of mine pointed me towards it. And that is all I've got for Loreweek. Farewell forever.